Well, there's my patch. It's hard to not zoom in too close. I got to keep the phone close to the ground. Um, what I did was, in the previous videos you'd have seen, I did 1708. Well, first off, I started with just a regular coat of resin. And I coated everything in the inside, and before it dried completely, I let it tack up a little bit. I put another coat, a thin coat on top just to wet it. I put down a layer of 1708. I wet it out as best I could because it would just, 1708 doesn't curve around stuff very easily. I added my new bulkheads, and from there I let that all dry, and I let my 2 layers of 1708 tack up along here. After that tacked up, I took a peanut butter based only with Cavasil in it. I don't know if it's really Cavasil, but it's the West Systems 404. See it up there. And I had some of my old resin. See, it's a laminating resin, and it says it's a non-structural resin, but I added some 404 to it as well as a little test batch, and I chopped up some of the mat that I had and mixed it in, and it looked pretty good. I figured we'll give it a shot, see how it dries out. So the first batch I made was just West Systems with their thickener, and it's a structural thickener. So I used that, put that in, let it dry, came home yesterday, sanded it as best as I could without going too deep. I wanted to leave as much on there as I could. I sanded the whole thing again. I sanded all the way around, and I cleaned up the keel there. After that, I wiped it all down with acetone, because now it's been dried. I can't just coat over it, so I had to sand it. I'm not sure if West Systems has Ames blush, but I figured, what the heck, I need to sand it anyway. I wanted to smooth it out anyway, so I smoothed it out. From there, I contemplated on what to do next, and that's when I mixed up the boatyard resin that I have, the laminating resin, because I ran out of the West Systems. The West Systems is $54 for a quart, plus like $27 for the hardener, so you're up to like 70 some, almost $80, whatever it is, and that's expensive, and I burned through that stuff quickly, so I didn't want to go that route again. I figured I had this laying around, and I mixed it up, added a bunch of chopped glass, made it real thick, and it's different. It's a different texture than the West Systems. It's almost like a slippery peanut butter, and I tried to make it as thick as I could. I filled in a lot, and it's really sticky. It was a real sticky goop and hard to spread, but you just take your time, be patient with it, depending on what you're mixing up, what you're using. But I would recommend to use epoxy on this type of repair. Let me get underneath here some more. Trying to get that glare out of there. You can see how high I went with it. I wish I had got some of these higher spots with it, but I am planning on sanding this and putting fiberglass over it now. I'm gonna sand all this back just to smooth it out. You can see it's kind of lumpy. What I found was, once I got it on there, I actually wet my finger and smoothed it out so it wouldn't stick to my finger in the tough spots, like around here, around this. I use my finger, a wet finger, and it won't stick to your finger. I tried to build up. I had a spot here that was lower than the rest, and before I wanted to glass it, I wanted to make sure that it was built up and somewhat the same as the other side, which actually turned out pretty well. Another thing I was looking at is the keel. The keel, I've looked on another boat that's the same as mine, and it looks like the keel dies out somewhere right around here. So I may try to extend it a little bit, and it looks like it actually tapers off and fades away, and there is no keel along here. All I'm gonna do is create not an actual center line. I guess it's part of your bow keel line, your bow line. I don't know what you call it, but you can see going up my bow, the shadows in here are playing on it, but the center of it is right about there. I found the center of that, continued up. I actually put a pencil line on it, pencil line from there to the center of my keel to give me a nice center line of where I needed to build up, and it would give me an idea from side to side. It's really hard underneath here to give you guys a good view of it, but from side to side where my center line was and where I needed to. So what I did was I took one of those flexible putty knives, plastic spreaders, held it to the side of my hull, spread it down, and it left a nice even side. I did it on both sides and just kind of left it, because the more I touched it, the worse it got. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to do some sanding. I wish I had stopped and grabbed a new sanding disc, but I didn't, so I'm going to have to use the one I have. It's still pretty good. That's it for now. And after I do this, I'm going to sand it, and I'm going to put one layer of 1708 on here. Now, I'm contemplating on how far out I need to go. You can see the size of my hand on here, and it's almost to the outside, from the bottom of the boat to the outside. So that's probably about 7 inches. So if I did a 14-inch piece, that's an awfully big piece to wet out. So I don't know if I need to go that far, but you can see right, it sounds pretty hard, but you can hear where I added the new keel, or the new my cross brace inside there. It's solid there. It's pretty solid, but I don't know, there. I want it tough. I want it tough as nails, because I don't want to think about it. I want it to be right. I don't want to have to think about it when I'm in the boat, thinking, is this patch peeling off on me? And so I want it proper. So that's where I'm contemplating. Now, I could go out. I could go out maybe 6 inches and then put another piece that's like 9 inches to cover that, or do 9 inches first, then a 6-inch piece. I gotta look into it and see which way I should go. If I should go small first and then big, because I gotta be able to blend it in after. Now, I really like the West Systems. When I made up the peanut butter, I don't want to buy any more, it's just too expensive, but I like the way it spread when it was mixed, because it spread like peanut butter. This other stuff I had mixed up, it was very sticky, so it would stick to my plastic putty spreader and it would pull it off as I'm going. Now, if you were careful when you were doing it and you spread and then just kept spreading until there was no more putty on your blade, was the only way to go. I'm still stuck on this whole how wide of a piece to stick on here. I'm gonna go past a little bit. I got a lot more prep to do up here. I'm just gonna sand this down, look for any imperfections, and spot patch those with peanut butter, sand it all down. I need to look into what kind of bottom paint I can use on epoxy, because typically I'm not going to use gel coat. Can't use gel coat. I hear you can, but you got to mix it right and you got to do certain things. So I'm not going to use gel coat. Bottom paint can be fairly expensive, and I mean it can be really expensive. So I don't know. I have above line paint above waterline paint, it's allowed to be in the water for less than 3 days, and my boat is never in the water for more than 3 days. So I have a red paint that's you know, boat paint, but I don't know. Just thinking out loud here. That's it. I'm gonna take a break, think about what I gotta do next, sand this down, figure out how wide of a piece I want to put on here. Alright, thanks for watching. This is a rambling video. Thanks for watching.